So not too long ago, Synology flew us out to Taiwan to show us what they're working on, and we covered that in the other video. If you're listening to the podcast of this, I'll leave the YouTube video down in the description. But we wanted to kind of also do some long-form content while we were there and actually talk to some of the employees. So this is the interview that Jonah did with some of the team members at Synology, where they talked a little bit more about why they chose what to do, what they did, why they released these products, and also what we can expect going forward. I think it probably answers a lot of questions that people might have had if they had any questions from that initial video. So again, check out that initial video. Otherwise, enjoy the interview. We pretty much touch on everything from the video in this interview.
I'm here at Synology's Solution Exhibition, and we just finished up with the Active Protect product launch from them, and I'm joined here by Michael and Tony from Synology's marketing team here, and I have a couple questions for them that I want to ask about all the stuff that we've been seeing here today. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so can you just give me like a quick overview of all the stuff that we've seen today, like a brief summary of everything you're launching so far?
I'll take this.
Sure.
So today at the Active Protect launch event, it's basically a new family of backup appliances that we're launching. So it's focused on data protection for our business customers primarily, and larger organizations, at least compared to our previous backup solution, which is Active Backup on our NAS platform. So what makes Active Protect stand apart is that it is a clustered design, so it can support up to 2,500 servers and sites, depending on how you want to set things up, which means that you can protect over 150,000 entities. So that could be endpoints, servers, virtual machines, user accounts on cloud services. All of that is managed from one single interface. So, for example, take in Synology's case, we have multiple branch offices around the world. We can use Active Protect to allow IT to centralize all backup data protection activities, policies, and plans, and apply them basically immediately across the world. So there's no need to separately log into different systems. There's no need to separately configure any policies. It's like one click and it's global. Awesome. And that's basically, I would say, a high-level overview of our system and what it can bring to the table.
Yeah, that sounds really great for enterprise users. Also in our community, we have a lot of prosumer customers as well, and I was wondering if there's anything here that you'd want to highlight for that type of user as well.
As you can see from our digital live demo, we do have ones that are dedicated for more of a daily consumers, where they don't really need that much of IT domains and IT knowledges. It's an easy plug-and-play type of product that can help them manage their pictures and files, and whatever they have would generate it for on a daily basis. But in terms of more of a prosumer level, we do have solutions such as the ones that we see at the surveillance demo area, where you see a lot. So we do have on-prem camera systems as well as our cloud camera systems that are a little bit dedicated. It's more of a hybrid uses for our different variety of different use cases. Although some of the use cases are more dedicated for businesses that needs hybrid deployments for, say, on-prem servers, as well as remote sites where they don't have the luxury to deploy such servers. They do have the luxury to deploy those cameras. But whereas for a lot of the prosumers, we do see similar demands where they, especially for different regions in the world, they do have a larger premise in their households that do require. They do have to install their cameras on their household. So that's something that has been hugely demanded by our prosumer communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's actually, I was setting up a camera solution for someone else when we were going to go with Synology, but they found that the price of having to get a NAS and a storage solution set up was kind of too high for their needs, so they went with a different provider. But this would have been super nice. If they just had this cloud solution where everything is kind of included in the cameras and not needing that separate appliance. So that's a really good use case for them. So I can see a lot of people definitely liking that. I just have a couple of questions about some of the stuff we covered. I'm probably going to ask some questions that we already talked about out there just to get it recorded again, if that's okay. So, we looked at some Synology Drive stuff and some new AI features in Synology Drive. What are the hardware requirements for AI in Synology Drive? Is that going to be available to existing customers, or is that going to require a new product?
So for Synology's AI implementation on Synology Drive, right now we are leveraging external parties. So for example, you could pick between OpenAI, Azure AI, or Gemini whatever model that is available, you can choose. So there's no explicit like hardware requirement for, let's say, to implement this into Synology Office or MailPlus. It's more like it's external at the moment.
So it sounds like everyone who has Synology Drive currently will be able to upgrade to this AI solution.
Yes, this is the current plan. We do the de-identification on-prem, so obviously that's removing a lot of your potentially sensitive information from the prompts before it gets sent out to like third party. But that's not something that's super heavy on the NAS.
Awesome. Yeah, that kind of covers my next question. What kind of like de-identification does that cover? Like what information would be removed before it's sent off to the cloud?
Okay. So we have a few predefined configurations. For example, it can detect common names. You can choose a language. Let's say birthdays, passport numbers, credit card numbers, addresses. There's a few predefined ones. You can also customize it. Let's say you have these unique identifiers. If there's a pattern, then you can probably give it, put it into the system, and then it'll look for these patterns, and they'll remove them and integrate them into the received response from the AI provider. So this is configurable depending on your needs.
Okay, I can give you some examples. So the predefined ones, such as more sensitive information, such as just social security numbers, or any specific ones that are dedicated for different countries or different domains. We covered a lot of them. So we are still finalizing the details, but yeah, pretty much covers.
So there's like country-specific ones or language-specific
Yes.
things that would be de-identified?
Right now
Yes.
it's language specific, so you can, let's say you regularly use English, German, or French, then you choose those languages, and the system will be actively looking out for those formats in those languages.
Yes.
We'll move on to this new active product that you've launched. I know you already have a backup solution in C2. You also have active backup for business, which is probably what many Synology users are already familiar with. Are any of those solutions being deprecated in favor of this new solution, or is this going to coexist alongside the solutions that you already have right now?
Why we want to, highlight Active Protect for this specific event is that, first of all, this event is more dedicated for enterprise users and enterprise solutions, and also why we want to introduce the solutions is we want to address some of the untapped territories that we've been although we've been serving a lot of customers in that regards, but there are some unaddressed issues. For example, centralized management, performance, as well as recoverability issues. So that's the really high level of what we want to cover. But definitely not trying to diminish all the other solutions that we have in store. But that's definitely something we want to highlight in terms of data protection space.
Absolutely. So it sounds like existing customers who maybe like small businesses who don't need this dedicated appliance are going to be, they're still going to be able to use this active backup for business, and then active protect would be for if you need more functionality than that or centralized management. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so let me summarize the main points. Is active backup is still going to remain a viable product in the near future. So we are going to continuously develop both platforms. So active protect, again, is more for that centralized large-scale management. And active backup can still be used on the individual single system level. And it can also be integrated, like you mentioned, into an active protect cluster. So existing customers can basically partially migrate their backup infrastructure over without replacing every single device. Yeah. C2 backup, though, on the other hand, is still going to remain independent. So there currently is an integration between Active Protect with C2 backup, but C2 backup is still very much a in-development platform that will be supported. It's just basically direct to cloud. So it's kind of similar to the cameras, but this is for backup. It's basically no infrastructure needed.
So on your website and in your marketing, you pretty proudly tout Active Backup as a license-free solution for businesses, whereas with this solution, you're transitioning to more of a subscription-based model from what I'm gathering. Could you kind of explain the rationale behind that switch?
Yes, Active Backup was more of you buy the hardware and you get the software for free. With Active Protect, you are also buying the hardware, but then there is, like you mentioned, we are charging a subscription fee in the future. Like first year is all inclusive, but starting from the second year, you are going to be buying basically a storage-based license. So each Active Protect system is pre-configured at, let's say, 150 terabytes per system, depending on the SKU. First year, you can use all of that storage for free. It's all included. And then from the second year, let's say you only use 70 terabytes on your first year. So let's say you provision for 80 terabytes. That's how much you'll pay for in the second year. And third year, you can change it to whatever works for you. Why we're doing this is because Active Protect is a system that's designed for basically extremely large-scale deployments. As mentioned before, up to 2,500 sites and systems. And using this storage-based mechanism, we are able to better develop and support our customers this way. So basically continuous software support, updates, and to work with them to basically customize it for their needs.
Got it. So during the presentation, they talked a bit about how the drives and everything is pre-configured, so you just get this appliance out of the box. What does the expansion process for that look like? Are the drives like user replaceable after the fact, or is the process more like adding new appliances to kind of expand it as you go, or how does that work?
Exactly like you said. It's basically you would add new appliances. You are not doing any like customization, or you're not swapping out the drives. You're not like rebuilding the storage pool. It's basically if you need more storage, you probably are exceeding the number of recommended backup, let's say clients or endpoints per system. You will be adding another one, and then all of that is still managed through the same interface.
Let me ask you some questions about the new cloud cameras that you have showing here. These new cameras, they seem to work directly with C2, so there's not any kind of surveillance station in DSM like integrated with them at the moment. Is there an option to use that with an existing like on-prem setup with surveillance station, or will that be available in the future?
Not at the moment, but that is something that we are looking maybe to have some sort of hybrid setup, but not during launch.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of our viewers especially are concerned about like the privacy and security of their data in the cloud. Can you tell me more about like what kind of protections you have in place to protect that data from either being hacked or even just from like Synology employees accessing it perhaps?
Yeah, so Synology C2 Cloud, first of all, if you want to access our cloud storage, you do need encryption key to access whatever is stored on C2 Cloud. So everything is encrypted from end to end. So even Synology doesn't know obviously your encryption as well as whatever you're stored on the cloud. So that's that. And also our data center is ISO 27000 and SOC 2 Type 2 certified. It's really hard to read it, but yeah. So we do apply several different types of security measures to ensure the data that customers are storing on our clouds are safe.
Awesome. Yeah. Simply put, we can't see your data at all without that key.
In short, yes.
And we don't record that key. Basically, even if our servers are compromised, no one can access that data unless they force that passcode out of you. Yeah.
So we were looking at the cloud cameras earlier, and we were talking about the storage, like the cloud storage that's included with that. Can you tell me more about like the pricing of cloud storage for that, or like advanced licensing features, that kind of thing?
So the actual final pricing and licensing features aren't fully, it's not nailed down yet. We'll have more information closer to release. But right now, basically, if you do buy a C2 camera, all of the cloud management features are for free. So you do not need a subscription to use any of the management features. However, that means that all of the storage is going to be kept locally on each camera. And if you will be paying, let's say if you want 30-day retention policy, you will be subscribing for that per camera. Or let's say you want to store footage for 60 days or maybe 90 days. For some organizations, they might want to retain it for a year. You're only paying for the retention. But all of the management functionality will be included for free.
So when you talk about like 30, 60, 90-day retention, are you referring to like cloud storage like in C2?
Yes, exactly.
Would retention on the camera be based basically on storage in the camera, or
Yes.
How does that work?
Basically, there is a built-in storage to each camera, and that is going to be holding on to your video clips if you do not use or you do not choose to buy storage retention on C2.
Like every other cameras, like all the old clips will be rotated out of rotation. So, like any other camera.
Do these new cameras have anything new in addition to? How should I say this? Do these new cameras have like any new features that aren't present in your existing camera lineup, or is it a pretty similar product to the existing like surveillance station and AI stuff?
So I would say right now in the first iteration of C2 cameras, we're mostly 70 to 80% on feature parity with the existing surveillance platform, because that one has like over a decade of development. But we are looking to more differentiation in the future. Having a cloud platform gives us a lot of opportunities to expand on certain services. For example, we can add additional AI capabilities that are being done on the cloud versus having to rely on what's available on the camera or maybe on a storage server that you have on-prem. But these are things that we're still looking into.
So for existing on-prem users, is there going to be any plans to like integrate these two platforms so like they can take advantage of these new cloud cameras, maybe in like remote locations where the on-prem server doesn't exist or that kind of thing?
So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but right now there is no integration. There's no hybrid ability where you can do on-prem and also cloud-based cameras, but it's something we're looking into.
I saw that you also have a new, what's the product line, Beestation? Or
GS series.
GS series? Okay. So you have a new Beestation series coming out, and it seems like the main point of that is hyper scalability as far as like being able to go up to 20 petabytes, you were saying. It seems like you have a lot of operating systems coming out recently. You have, Beestation Manager, which you've always had, and now you have Beestation Manager, Beestation Manager, and Active Protect. It seems to have been increasing recently. Can you kind of explain the rationale behind launching these new dedicated operating systems and appliances as opposed to adding like new software features to Beestation Manager, for example?
Right. So I think as we expand more into the business or enterprise space, a lot of them actually just want a system that's more purpose-built and single purpose instead of having everything, I wouldn't say jumbo in one system, but having more purposes on a single system, it creates more risk of system failure. So we want to make sure the solution they're getting their hands on is simple and gets the job done. So I don't know if Michael's going to elaborate on that.
Yeah, to add a little bit more to that, we have a lot of customers where they in the past, yes, they're deploying like a rack station or a flash station. It's running DSM. It can do a lot of different things. But for each system they're deploying, it might actually only be doing one thing. Let's say a file server or a block storage server, or one is running Synology Drive, another one is running surveillance station. They want to keep it separate because it's easier to manage. And at the end of the day, sometimes the admins that are controlling each system is actually different. They want to keep things basically as isolated as possible. So in this regard, this is why we're kind of going into, hey, for even larger deployments, it might be a better idea to keep things as simple as possible. So a backup server should only be doing backup server things. It shouldn't be mixing file server or application server things into the same interface. It just adds more complexity, like Tony mentioned, and more room for error, because once you have a lot of options, you might be tempted to try different things, or you might accidentally configure the wrong thing. Yeah. But DSM is still not, obviously DSM is not going anywhere. It's still going to be basically our general purpose platform that can do everything. It's just more, it's dependent on the IT to properly configure and deploy it.
Yeah, I kind of had a question about DSM. It seems like, we talked about you launching all these new products between like Beestation on the consumer side and then all of this new like dedicated stuff on the enterprise side. I've heard a lot of feedback from users who are like either prosumer or small business that they're kind of worried that DSM isn't getting a lot of attention these days, and they're concerned about the future of those traditional tower servers that are very popular. There's some like 6 and 8 bay models that haven't been updated. They're like 2020, 2021 models still, and I was wondering if you had anything to say to those users.
So Synology has never commented on future products, and simply put, if you look at our past events, Synology doesn't pre-announce upcoming refreshes to existing products. So successors, like you mentioned, like 6 and 8 bay ones, they will come when they're ready. Okay. Yeah, that's basically it. Should I add on to the DSM part for DSM
sure.
updates?
Yeah.
Okay, so for DSM updates, we just released DSM 7.2 sometime last year, and it included many like security and a lot. Basically, it was mostly a security update, so including worm, adaptive multi-factor authentication, and a lot of under-the-hood security hardening. So I don't think it's true that DSM is not getting like the love or getting as much development effort. It's just that a lot of the things we're looking at, because DSM is so mature, all the basic functionality is already there, but we're looking at how to make it more efficient, how do we make it more secure. And a lot of those like no one's going to be comparing, let's say, the setup wizard in DSM 7 versus 6 or 5 or 4. But a lot of the work that goes on is really just improving that last mile, or like that from 90% to 100%. It's hard there, but people might not feel it.
Yeah.
Especially security, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be thinking too much if nothing happens to your system, but you'll definitely be pretty upset if something does happen. And yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, kind of building on that, I had a question about the consumer Beestation lines that you just launched. You've had B-Drive for a little while, and I think Beestation is pretty new, like last couple months, is that correct?
Yeah.
Given that you can get like a single bay device and a hard drive from you for around the same price as a Beestation, what was the rationale behind introducing like this new product line in the first place, as opposed to maybe simplifying or having a simplified interface on DSM, for example, and selling that as an existing product?
Sure. I guess, like I was mentioning in the very beginning, B series dedicated for users that doesn't have vast amount of IT knowledge as well as their domain in networking, for example. So this is more dedicated for general public or people like plug and play people that just simply wants to manage their files and use them on the get-go. That's pretty much the purpose of it.
So obviously there is some overlap between our one bay, like you have to install your own hard drive, set up DSM. We view them as basically completely different target audiences. So if you want to configure things, you want something more powerful, or you want to join that one bay into, let's say, surveillance station, CMS, you're free to do that. But that's not the same crowd that just wants to pick up something from, let's say, a hardware store, or just buy something random on Amazon and then directly plug it in and they want it to work. It's completely different.
Sure. The Beestation comes pre-configured with a 4 terabyte drive, and I think it's sealed, so it's not user replaceable. Do you have any concerns about like reliability or repairs as far as that goes?
So similar to USB drives or other storage media that a lot of this level of customer that we're targeting, we think that Beestation is trying to back up your other devices, so it should be a second copy. But if they're worried about it, or they are setting up as their central repository, there is integrated backup options. So right now you can back up to C2 storage, and in the future we are going to roll out more like tailored plans for this product line.
Okay. Just remind me, because I haven't been using Beestation too much yet. Does Beestation, like the Files app, does it also have Office functionality, like editing documents, or is it just files?
No, currently it more resembles Synology Drive, so it has all the file management features, sharing features, but it does not have Synology Office. So it doesn't have the spreadsheets, slides, and Office docs.
I think that answers pretty much everything I was wondering. I guess I would just ask if there's any like future upcoming improvements or features that people can look forward to in the near future, or anything else that you'd want to share with people before we end this?
I think what this event entails, we simply want to celebrate, our partnership and our collaboration with our enterprise users. So this event is more dedicated for that in that regard, and for future solutions that you guys, if you want to have more information, maybe you can follow us on our LinkedIn and Facebook. Maybe we'll have more information on there, and we'll keep everybody posted.
All right, well, we will link to those, and hopefully people can follow you there as well. I think that just about does it for everything that I wanted to ask you today. All the stuff looks super cool. Yeah, so we're getting what does DP stand for? Data protection?
We don't have an official
It doesn't
name,
stand for it, just the
but you
DP
can
series?
assume it's data protection.
Active Protect?
No interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be getting that DP series appliance in the mail pretty soon, and we'll hopefully be able to make some additional content about that as soon as we can test it out. But thank you both for joining me today. That all sounds great, and we'll check out the rest of the event.
Awesome. Thank you both. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And that's the interview with Synology. I want to thank the 2 team members that made this possible. I want to thank everyone on the Synology team that got us out there to Taiwan. I also want to thank Jonah for doing the interview and Jordan for doing the recording and everything. Now what I want to ask the community for, all of you watching, leave in the comments, or if you're listening to the podcast, then send me an email on our website. Leave me some questions or some concerns you have with some of the services and products so I can address them in the proper review. Because some of these are pretty new services. I'm sure that this interview didn't answer everybody's questions. And so leave your questions. And if I start seeing patterns in the questions you're all asking, then I'll try to address those in the review. So that way, once the services come out, I'll try to do a review and then you all can figure out if it's something you even want to touch. So that's what I'm thinking is the best plan of action. So again, leave me your feedback, leave me any questions you have about things, and I'll keep those in mind when I do proper reviews going forward. If you enjoyed this interview, if you got value out of this, if you learned something today, definitely consider joining us on Patreon. We really couldn't do this content without all of our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/Techlore. We're not also just on Patreon, we're also on Ko-fi. We support PayPal tips, we accept Monero tips, we accept some other things. I think we're also on YouTube as well, so YouTube memberships program. So there's a ton of different things that you can do to support us back here, and every bit really does help. So I appreciate all of your support. Leave your feedback and questions below, and we'll see you next time on Techlore.